That's right, lads. You are now watching Contents Under Pressure, creative stream on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some pixel noir artwork. So if you guys are at all interested in that game, then this could be the stream you are looking for. Why don't we get started here in just a minute.
Did you know from the second you walked in I wanted more, and in a minute I'll be losing.
Good morning, my lads. I hope everybody is having a good Monday morning. I took this Sunday off from streaming, first time in quite a while. But I am back and I'm ready to get some work done. So I hope you'll join me. Hey Jerome and Parrot Math, how's it going, guys? Welcome. So I have to do like a melee stance and melee animations for him for 4 directions. Luckily, it's mostly going to be mirrored, except for a couple of changes here. Like you can see that his suit doesn't mirror, so I'll have to pay attention to that. But these 2 directions are going to be mirrored. So I have to decide how I want him to fight, and for him, I think I want him to use his legs. So I think what I'll do is I'll just put him... Hey French. I'll put him in a pose like he's kind of like, I don't know. Something that makes it look like he can kick, you know? So how's it going, guys? How is your Monday so far? Make sure you started out right. Make sure you started out here. He should headbutt. No, he's like a professional hitman. He doesn't get his hands dirty. Which is why I came up with the idea of having him do kicks instead. He's kind of like... He's a kill snob. He doesn't like to touch people. Friggin' auto-tune shit. So anyway, you guys remember how we were like talking about James Gunn and the whole devil's advocate thing? Well, it's just some jokes. Well, it seems like his luck has run out. They have like pictures of him attending these like pedophile parties where they dress up to like mock things, and he was, let's say he was in compromising photos dressed as a priest with these women in that dressed like schoolgirls, like he's getting ready to touch them and stuff like that. At some point you have to take it beyond this is just a guy with a sense of humor, and that this guy's got something wrong with him. I think they're running out of ways to defend his behavior at this point. I think he's pretty much shit-canned himself, to be honest. When you are that obsessed with pedophilia, it starts to look like it goes beyond humor and into something else. They also have like tweets of him exchanging dialogue with a convicted pedophile who said in the Twitter said he sent him images, and James Gunn was replying stuff like, "Oh, it was great." That is how you kill your career, I guess. That is how you destroy yourself. Of course, maybe that's like a cry for help. Sick people have done weirder things, Being as obvious as they can. It's like, if nobody catches me, well, then that's because they're not trying. And it's not my fault. But wow. Yeah, I think he's pretty much done with Disney at this point, and if he works again in Hollywood, I don't know, under the current witch hunt type thing, I don't know. I mean, I do agree that there's a lot of craziness going on with that, but that guy's like gone well beyond the limits of propriety and humor. I think he's not somebody could save at this point. With "It's just jokes." Not so much anymore. I think sometimes people will defend somebody like that, like Batista is, not because they're also guilty, because they can't bring themselves to accept that they would ever associate with somebody like that and be deceived by them. So it's easier to like pretend that it's not real. I think that a lot of it comes from that. Like I don't think Batista is a pedophile. But he's gonna damage his career if he sticks by this guy with all the stuff that keeps coming out about him. At some point, he's gonna be like, dude, why didn't you tell me about this party you attended? This pedophile party you attended where you guys dressed up like that and did that shit. And he'll be like, oh, I didn't think it was important. It was just more jokes. Like, all my jokes seem to be pedophile related. It's like, yeah, that's the problem, is that that's all your jokes seem to be. But anyway, I think regardless of anything else at this point, he's pretty much done. I don't take any delight in it. I mean, I don't know the guy. I haven't decided what I want him to do with his arms, because he's not going to be using them to kick. You do movies in Europe. Oh my. I don't know what that says about Europe. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. I already asked you guys, but I don't think anybody said anything. I hope you... Are you guys all doing alright? Is everybody doing okay? I hope so. I don't get answers usually when I ask, so sometimes I have to ask again. I don't like how that looks either. Once I get the pose right, the rest of it'll be easy-ish. Beep, 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 beep. You're watching tons of Alex Jones. Me too, actually. I haven't watched him in a while, but I've been trying to support his channel more now that he's been deplatformed. I don't think that there's any reasonable cause to do it. They're just trying to make him go away because they don't like what he says. I don't agree with that approach. I think they're going to end up making him bigger than he was. That's often the case, you know, if you can't completely silence a person, the attempts, like the failed attempts to get rid of him, can backfire on you very heavily. I think that's what's going to happen. That they're gonna make his channel bigger than it ever was. And that's their fault. I don't like that arm right there. The rest of it's starting to look better to me, but I don't like this arm posture. I don't know what I should do with it. I mean, should I just like leave it out of frame, maybe? Like maybe part of it, a little bit of it visible, might do the job. Let's see. Point, point. Clear. Said clear.
Hope no one else gets lost out there. In the fall, 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 in the fall.
It started with a hiss, a spark, a midnight sky that filled up with incredible awe. It came into my mind, a thought, a chance to exist as ambassador of the stars. With purpose I gleamed and stood with vitality's cloak to embark on the greatest mirage. For then I understood that I, a dreamer with my heart, could overturn all the odds. It started with a blast, a power that surged in science and wandered through an infinite flame. Mysteries unfurled and bloomed, shining on me the lights of interstellar fame. I traveled to new worlds and found a secret of movement lost in the reaches of time. The voyage now a quest, I have to race for home to save all of mankind. All that matters in your life for it to be whole is that you found what moves your body and soul. That is when your story will be told, will be told. All that matters in your life for it to be whole is that you found what moves your body and soul. That is when your story will be told, will be told.
Play him like Japanese style. Hands in his pockets type combat. You're not into the InfoWars shit? I think he says a lot of true stuff, but he also exaggerates. It's one of those things where I think his goal is to try to tell the truth via like getting you amped up, getting you afraid, getting you angry. That's kind of that's his approach as far as I can tell from having watched him for a few years, is that he tries to wind people up into action. I don't necessarily agree with that approach. It's one of the reasons why I stopped watching him for a long time. I think that if you think you have to like make people afraid to get them to take action, then maybe that's the wrong approach, or maybe they should fail if that's what it takes. But I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. That's all I can say. I don't like appeals to my emotions. I like appeals to reason. That works for me a lot better than trying to appeal to my sense of fear. think we'll go with this. I wasn't gonna do like an anime style pose, but I don't know. It seems like it works for his character.
Can't you stare in the first try?
I think we lost French there. Boy, he wasn't around for very long.
Take my body out
It's like a cameo appearance in a movie.
as I scream hello into the night. And back again. Snake eyes roll the dice until the end. Marlboro kisses from older men. I'm a bad tourist, that's my only sin. To and back again. Snake eyes roll the dice until the end. Marlboro kisses from older men. I'm a bad tourist, that's my only sin. Must be two limits, swear it twice. Nothing's real until you arrive. Cross our hearts, hope to die.
I think he's pretty much on the money as far as Tim Cook goes, though.
Pray to God that
I think Tim Cook is in bed with the Chinese.
and back again. Snake eyes roll the dice until the end. Marlboro kisses from older men. I'm a bad tourist, that's my only sin. And back again. Snake eyes roll the dice until the end. Marlboro kisses from older men. I'm a bad tourist, that's my only sin. And back again. Snake eyes roll the dice until the end. Marlboro kisses from older men. I'm a bad tourist, that's my only sin.
Whatever being a bad tourist is, I'm a bad tourist.
Hunted all my life, with nowhere else to hide. Fear inside me grows, escaping in the dark. We were lonely souls, pretty face inside. We were lonely souls. And so never gonna let you go. You and I will survive. We're born to live, not meant to die. Howling in my mind, steps on open land. Pack of crying wolves, running in the night. We were lonely souls, pretty dead inside. We were lonely souls. And so never gonna let you go. You will survive. We're born to live, not meant to die. 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 The hunting is over. One last kiss. No more lonely souls. We're slaves no more, and we run free, even if we fall. And so it ends. You and I, never gonna let you go. You and
Will survive.
I, born to live, not meant to die.
Born to live, not meant to die. Born to live, not meant to die.
Born to live, not meant to die.
Blech. Excuse me. Made the mistake of having like some queso dip, and then I was gonna like start the stream, I don't know, 3 hours ago. I had some queso dip, and while I was reading I got really tired and I went back to sleep. Instant acid reflux, man. It was quick. It was painful. It was my fault. I'm welcome. For what? The thing I think's funny about Alex is that the dude knows that, like, the stuff he says is out there, and he does it on purpose to get a reaction. That's why there's so many memes about him. He gets off on that, like, people seeing it. 'Cause he knows that people aren't going to be able to resist coming to his channel and checking it out. He's smart in a lot of ways. You say something out there enough, people are gonna like take notice. Then all you have to do is wait for him to show up and see what it's about. Then you can feed them bits of like real info, and they'll find it more palatable. That's my opinion of what he does anyway. I mean, he's been in the business too long to not know how to play to an audience. I think he's very good at it. That's why he like does meme contests where he pays people to like make crazy memes about him. He knows that stuff gets out there. People see it. And they're like, wow, this guy is weird as hell. I'm gonna go check out his stream. Or whatever. And it works. Isn't that the correct response to excuse me? No, as far as I know, there isn't a response to a person burping at all. What do I know? Generally speaking, I just don't say anything. Unless it's like stinks or something. If they burp and it like stinks up a room like a fart, I'll probably say something. You see the... Yeah, I saw that. Hey, anonymous user. How's it going? Welcome to the art stream. I think my Twitter is like really taking off. Isn't that like the measure of your Twitter popularity when you start getting like people that stalk your tweets? Hey, Agent, how's it going? There goes your anonymity. Is that a measure of your popularity as a Twitter person when you start getting like people who just stalk your tweets to like make ridiculous responses to them? Like I've got this guy that he thinks that I think he honestly well, he's triggered for one thing. He's a liberal, so it happens. Race for the cure, everybody. And I say that in all honesty. I haven't seen a group that's more easily tweaked off than the liberals of today. They are so easily baited. They are G-baited. But this guy, like, follows my posts, and whenever he doesn't like anything I say, well, obviously from a guy that's the all-around good guy, this is a really interesting post for somebody like that. And first time he did that, I said, are you butthurt because you have a different opinion from me, so I must not be a good person? Because it all started with, he was on like a tirade in somebody else's Twitter, praising the removal of statues, like Civil War statues, because, you know, he agrees that it's racist, so it must be to have them. And I said, so you think destroying history like a jackbooted thug, which is what you are, is an acceptable way to deal with your discomfort, or this discomfort that you're showing on behalf of others? And he said, oh, you sure do your title justice. What an all-around good guy. You should really remove that from your Twitter. And I said, I don't see any reason to. So now he follows me around in tweets, and anytime, and it's pretty frequent, he doesn't like what I write. He puts, oh, another comment from the all-around good guy. And I said, yes, you do seem to like stalking me and pointing out that I'm a good guy. I appreciate that. So that's a testament. See, people like that don't realize that it renders them immediately the loser of any argument when they bring up like straw men like that. Like, I'm gonna pick apart your tagline because I don't like your content. It immediately makes me the winner. I feel great every time he does it. I can't wait for the next time he brings it up, because it immediately makes him look like a 2-year-old, doesn't it? It's like, oh look, it's another post from the all-around good guy. I'm triggered. And I enjoy it. What can I say? I enjoy it. It's like, if that's the best you've got, please continue. But seriously, I was having a serious discussion with somebody else in somebody else's Twitter about their desire to censor history that they don't like. And I said, that is a childish notion to remove elements of history that you don't agree with. That's the piecemeal destruction of society, of civilization. It's like trying to rewrite history. Let's get rid of these people because I find them objectionable. I don't see anybody, like, seriously trying to get Louis Farrakhan deplatformed for all of his, like, pro-Nazi statements and stuff that he's made over the years. And that's as it should be. Sadly, it seems like the rules are different depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on. And I find that very childish. And I love it when they bring up those, like, straw man statements, because it tells me that they've got nothing else. They have nothing else, so that's what they bring. It's like, if that's all you have, then I've clearly won this debate. And yeah, of course I get into debates like anybody to win them and to learn about what a person's true motivations are. That's also important to me. I think that a person's motivations are important in an argument. It gives you an idea about what kind of person they are. But I don't just go into debates to, like, play around and fuck with people. I go in them to, like, make a point. So when they result to childishness like that, I know that I've made my point and they don't have one. So it's time for the name calling. It's time for the, oh, you're such a nice guy. And I'm like, yeah, I am a nice guy. Except to people that are childish, like you, and need a wake-up call. I can be a very nice guy to people who aren't like you, who aren't intellectual children. So please keep throwing that at me, because that it certainly doesn't reduce the strength of my argument. It does reduce yours, because it makes you look petty, like you've got nothing else to grasp at. Like, I wish people that did that understood how weak it makes them look. That it does make you objectively look like a weak person to engage in those, like, childish theatrics with somebody who's making an actual argument about something. So instead of argue the point, attack the person, it makes you look weak to do that. And I think a lot of people on the left just still don't get that. That's my opinion. That people on the left either don't get it, or they don't care that it makes them look like imbeciles, like they've already lost. It's like, you wanna disagree with me on an issue? Fine. Go ahead. But as soon as you resort to, like, cheap little straw men, I don't have any reason to suspect you of anything but the lowest form of cunning. It's like, you don't have anything else to bring to this, do you? And that's exactly how I respond. It's like, you don't have anything else to bring except anger, right? You don't have an actual refutation of my argument. There's no counter argument for you. It's just, you're not a nice guy. You should take that off your Twitter. What? That's not an argument. You know, it's not related. Apparently, telling people what they don't want to hear in today's society, today's refined, genteel society, is being mean. You know, when you don't tell them what they want to hear. At no point prior to that was I nasty. I just argued the point that history should be preserved for its own sake, and that removing historical figures from monuments because you disagree with their behavior is childish. That was my statement. And then I'm instantly branded as a bad person for that. That's the kind of childishness that I rail against, that does nothing for a counter argument. There might be a good argument there that I haven't heard. And that's the problem. I'm not going to hear a good argument, because the only kind of responses I get to statements like that are personal attacks. Doesn't do any favors for them. Doesn't make them look smart or brave or intelligent. It just makes them look like petulant children that don't really have a real dog in the fight. So they're just picking a fight. It's like, if you had a real serious objection, here I'll give you an example. I was arguing in favor of William Shatner's position that there's this, like, notable equestrian that used to be in the Civil War on the side of the South. And he was given a statue. I don't know. 100 years ago or 50 years ago or something like that, he was given a statue for raising champion horses. That's why he has a statue. They're demanding it be removed because he was on the side of the South in the Civil War. And William Shatner was like, that's ludicrous. That's not, he doesn't even have a statue dedicated to him because of his thing in the Civil War. And they're like, oh, I don't care, my feelings. And I'm like, hold on, wait, you want to erase this guy from history because he was on a side that you didn't like? That's just childish. The best counter argument was, well, my feelings. And I'm like, your feelings aren't the important consideration here. History is the important consideration here. That's the important consideration, not how you feel. Your feelings aren't relevant to that. Because it's not about your feelings. And it isn't. It is not about how you feel. It is about, did this guy get noticed for a real reason? Like, was he awarded this legitimately? That would be a good argument. Like, this guy didn't deserve that for that. He, his horses weren't as good as somebody else's. That might be a legitimate argument. But people erected the statue on account of that. And on the basis of that, there's no reason why he shouldn't be remembered. And then I went on to expand that argument further on Twitter, which isn't easy with the few number of characters. I went on to expand it further with how a lot of people erected statues to commemorate family lineage. Not because they were proud of them being in the Civil War, but because they were proud of the lineage of their families. And they wanted to commemorate it. And they're like, well, what do they have to be proud of? What do you have to be proud of? The same things anybody else does. Family, history, things like that. Just because a person fought in the Civil War doesn't mean that they're the devil, I really reject that notion that, like, people that were in the Civil War on the side of the South were somehow evil. That's a relatively recent development, in my opinion. That's a relatively recent spin on the whole thing, is that the people in the South were actually evil. That they were horrible people instead of just, farmers and that some of which were conscripted and sucked into the fight. This notion that they were somehow evil is relatively new, I think, in the area of American discourse. And now that it's there, it's like people are just saying that it's true, that these people were evil. Not that they just had a different viewpoint, and that by today's standard, it is not a viewpoint that we support, that we like, and that we want to have in this country going forward. It's not just that, it's beyond that. It's like, to have ever had that idea means you are evil, not that you're a product of your time. Most of the founding fathers had slaves because most of Western culture had slaves. They were changing with the times. It's like Jefferson freed his slaves before he died because he believed that times were changing and that we had to reevaluate how we looked at other people, other races and stuff. But to say a person is evil when they're a product of their times, and in those times it was fairly regular, and in fact, I think I got some bits. Oh, thank you for the subscription, Carl. I appreciate that, man. And the fact that members of every race have kept or been slaves is something that shouldn't be quickly discarded. And I think it is. This idea that only black people have suffered slavery, or they've suffered it the worst or the most recent. The most recent is not an argument. Slavery is slavery, period. The fact that most people dismiss that white people have ever been slaves, that is disingenuous. They have. The fact that Africans themselves kept slaves, that they dismiss. Again, another relevant argument. Like, Africans did keep slaves from rival tribes and stuff like that, which they sold, in many cases, to Spaniards and other people that were coming to their country because they were enemies. So when you consider all of that, you have to consider the times and how people thought back then. It was a less civilized age in some ways, and people were learning how to live together with people that were different. And it wasn't always pleasant. It took a long time for people to stop seeing each other as the enemy or as inferior. And now what I see is a shift, especially on the left, back toward that, where if you don't agree with them, you are a non-person, that you are evil. That's dangerous. That's equally as dangerous as slavery used to be. It is a way to justify atrocities. And that's not something that should be encouraged. I don't think that behavior should be allowed to continue or be encouraged in people, that different viewpoints constitute a license to bully or harm or kill. That's what Antifa does. They think that it gives them license to hurt people because they think that they're espousing ideas that they think are dangerous. That's not something that we've seen in quite a while, but it is something we're seeing now. And it's pretty scary. In my opinion, it's pretty scary. It's pretty scary to live in a world where we're almost going back to the dark ages in the way we communicate with each other. You know, that fear that you're going to say something that's going to offend somebody and that they're going to be able to take legal action on you. It's like we're back in the dark ages of freedom and the right to expression. Something I think people should definitely think about, be at least worried about. You know, you say something somebody doesn't like and they decry you as a racist, and they can get you deplatformed and destroyed now. That's a lot of power that somebody should not be able to wield over your life. All I can say is that I feel that in the world of ideas, people should be free to say and think what they want, as long as they don't act on a violent tendency. And that includes, if you are racist, to be racist. That should be your right, to be a horrible person if that's what you want to be. That doesn't mean people need to associate with you. But, I mean, come on. It's like trying to eliminate a person's proclivities by saying that it's illegal to have them. That's thought crime, you know? That's not anything that people should encourage. You know, you can call them out on their racism or whatever if it's real. But I don't think that these things should be like, what is that? Animation playback end frame. Hang on. 5, 4. There we go. I don't think that it should be like this punishable hate crime thing.
This is Jim Rockford at the...
And that sort of thing worries me because it doesn't ever stop there.
I will sue you for everything you have. I will sue your ass.
It just doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop with a desire to prevent people from saying things that are hurtful. What is hurtful? When does it become hurtful? You know, I've had friends tell me like racist jokes before. It doesn't hurt me. So is it wrong for everybody because it doesn't hurt me? Like, it has to be something that's generally agreed upon by everybody for it to be a law. That's why it's a law. You know, that's why common law exists and has. Because people are generally agreed stealing from somebody was bad because they don't like to be stole from. Sleeping with another man's wife is bad because you don't like being cheated on. Murdering somebody you don't like is bad because you don't want to be murdered, and so on. This is the problem with legislating based on feelings. Everyone has a different opinion on what the limits are to propriety. And when that happens, in my opinion, it's best to take hands off and say, I'm sorry, we're not going to arrest this person for wrongthink because you don't like what they said. I think in a case where people can't generally agree upon something being bad, you just have to, like, say, sorry, you're going to have to deal with it by not being a snowflake. Otherwise, far worse things happen. I think it's also important to remind people that freedom of speech laws are there to protect speech you don't like, not to protect speech you do like. I wonder why people don't understand that basic point. It's not there to protect speech that's popular, because you don't need to protect speech that's popular. I mean, how is that not obvious? You don't need to protect speech that people approve of. You need to protect speech that people are outraged about, because that's when you can lose it. It's like, why do you have to remember that? Why do you have to remind people of that? Why is that something that isn't obvious to everyone? It's weird stuff like that that makes me think sometimes that some of this is people with agendas. They know full well what they're doing. They know they're undermining the Republic. And they're fine with it. They know they're undermining the Republic, and they're fine with it. That to them, it's not a big deal to take a person's rights away if that person disagrees with them on a fundamental issue. That is pretty scary. And I think that there are people like that out there. That it's okay if they object to what you're saying. It's okay for you to lose your right to speak if they don't like it. I don't think that's anything that we should want or praise or hold in high regard. People that are after that sort of thing, I don't think that that's anything that we should aspire to as a people. It's like the people that are like, oh, Trump's next with, Paul Manafort and that. Next for what? Next for what? Russian collusion? I don't think so. So far, these people are being harangued for tax evasion. There's no mention of, collusion in any of the charges. Well, for one thing, they know that that's the Supreme Court has weighed in on that, I believe, and said that that's not a criminal offense, that there's no criminal offense on the book for collusion. Secondly, they're not even charged with it. It's like, okay, but I thought that was the whole reason you're going after him. Apparently, it seems that going after Trump's cabinet for any crime is now laudable. That, like, that by any means necessary thing is okay. Like, as long as we get him in the end, it'll all have been worth it, and all of the dirty things we did to get there are justified. I have a bit of a problem with that. I think that that's not something we should be engaging in. Like, if he's guilty of collusion, then he's guilty of collusion. Don't try to get him on these other weird-ass charges because you don't like him. I think that's messed up. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't even know if it's Trump that had a plan. I think it's just... I think they realize that there's going to eventually be some public backlash for them not being able to deliver on Russian collusion, and that I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will turn around and say, well, you cannot have an investigation based on arresting him for anything if the subject was Russian collusion. Because if they go back far enough, I'm sure they're going to find something that Trump did that wasn't great. I don't think he's, you know, a super wonderful guy. But see, that's the thing. If they can establish a precedent like that, and it's a dangerous precedent, that anything they find that you're guilty of is enough to get you, I don't think anybody really wants to open up that can of worms. It's like, oh, you cheated on your tax return 1 year. Guilty. Impeach him. That's not a good thing. You know, that's why investigations are very narrow and they have to be for a specific thing. Now it seems like it can be for whatever it is. And that is not good. That's not good news for us, the regular people, at all. And it seems to me like they are aware now that they're not going to get Trump on a collusion charge, that there's nothing there. And they may have always known that. So what it seems like to me what they're trying to do is get his friends to flip on some kind of like dirty... whatever dirt they can to like flip on him. It's like, oh, well, you're going to go to prison for years, but if you give me whatever dirt you can give on Trump, it won't be like for a long time. And I think that might work with some of them, but I don't think that should be something the American people are willing to tolerate, because at that point, that's just a witch hunt. That's just this isn't about Russia. This is about, we don't want Trump here. That's why I have a problem with these people that will literally tell you that too. That they don't care what it is as long as it gets rid of Trump. That they're not in pursuit of the truth. That it was never about truth for them. It was about, I don't like Trump. And I tell those people, that's disgusting. That really, you don't like him so much that anything that is used that gets rid of him is fine with you. There's something wrong with you. Not something wrong with Trump. There's something wrong with you. There's a sickness in you. You can hate him all you want, but there comes a point at which you believe in the spirit of justice and that a person should not be tried over and over for something until you find something that they're guilty of. That's how I feel about it. I think uranium one might be part of it, but also I'm not sure. That could be a red herring. That could be a red herring to hide something else. But yeah, it definitely seems like they don't want something. That there's something that they don't want to happen with Trump's presidency. And the weird thing is I don't know if it would have ever happened if they had just left the guy alone. Like, they've made him an enemy. I don't think he went in there and said, "You guys, your days are all numbered," you know? I just don't... I don't see that. Like, the draining the swamp thing is words, as far as I'm concerned. It almost seems like they made an enemy of him on their own, you know? And maybe it's partially Peter Strzok's doing. Like, Peter Strzok seemed so anti-Trump that I think he set this whole thing off, and now they're doubling down on it because they can't back off while keeping face, you know? That if they back off, it's like, oh yeah, it was bias, and there's a whole lot of corruption in the FBI. So I think Mueller is kind of like a patsy, that he knows at this point the damage has been done to his organization, and if he gives up on this, it's like admitting that there's a huge arm of his organization that is just utterly corrupt. That's kind of the sense I've gotten out of it, is that he knows he can't dial back on this and save the FBI. That they have to prove something. And that's kind of scary if you think about it. Like, if he's in that situation where he feels that he has to find something on Trump in order to save the organization, then who knows what lengths he'll go to. But it certainly feels like that at this point. That they feel like because of Strzok's gross mismanagement and unprofessionalism, that if they don't nail Trump with something, that it makes them all look like they're in the pocket of the DNC, whether they are or not. I have no doubt that that what's his name is still in their pocket. Mr. Comey, I think he's definitely a Democratic agent. He's a shill for the liberals. I don't doubt that at all. I've never had the sense from that man that he's anything but a compromised stooge. But I don't know that Mueller is. I know they're friends, but I almost feel like Mueller's doing this out of a sense that he has to preserve what little dignity the FBI has, and that if he doesn't, they're done, basically. That if they find nothing, then it's like, well, it was a witch hunt. Look at that. Look at that. The FBI is a compromised organization. Think of what that means for him. So it's I think that's what it is. And that's what worries me, is that if that's what he's acting on, that he has to preserve the FBI's credibility, then why wouldn't he do it by any means necessary? By any dirty trick he could. If he thought that, the greater good. I think it's something to consider. No matter what side you're on, is that when your organization is that close to total ruin in terms of credibility, what are you willing to do to maintain it? And should we trust the results of somebody that clearly has an agenda to preserve the sanctity of their office? You picture the military breaking off the parade? Why? I mean, the military seems to be... At least the rank and file seems to be really pro-Trump. Because he's pro-military. Unlike Obama. And I'm not saying anything that isn't true. I don't know anybody in the military during Obama's time that has anything good to say about him in terms of how he treated the military. He's well known for not having a whole lot of respect for our military, even though he would say it at rallies, but his actions were, they didn't match his words. Whereas Trump, he does stand by that. He's done things for the Veterans Administration and stuff to help the troops. So in that respect, he does show that he's very pro-troops. And I think that's helping him in a lot of ways. Oh, you saying it'll be a Trump operation?
I mean, this love seemed real for the most, right? Got my heart skipping beats on the first.
I don't know.
$20 in the club, that's my first wife. I've been looking for this love with a searchlight. Don't want to come up kind of strong, but it worked, right? What's your name, though? I ain't trying to get attached, but remain slow. In the future, I can see us in the same boat. I love each other, we ain't even on the same coast. Most guys approach with a little name, a little game. They get the number and they bruise like a dog.
I don't want to hear this shit.
Most times I do all that, but you come on with
See ya. God, I can't stand like rap style music at all. I really can't. I don't like it. I don't like how it sounds. It doesn't appeal to me at all. Guess somewhere that means I have to be a racist or something because I don't like rap music at all. I'll preface the at all every time. At all. None of it do I like. Or it could just mean that I don't like it. At all. Just like I know plenty of people that don't like classical music at all, but they're not accused of being like racists against Beethoven. I don't know if he's a foreign invader or not. I think that he had different priorities than most Americans. I think that that's something that you can establish, is that Obama's priorities weren't America first, for sure. It was play ball with the UN and do everything they did. He was a lick spittle for the UN. Anything they said was law. And that is that's something you can see in his legislation. He was a little lick spittle for the UN. That doesn't endear him to me because I wouldn't trust the UN as far as I could throw their headquarters. I don't think the UN is any friend of the American people. Not with their seizure of a lot of our natural resources and stuff. A lot of people don't realize that Clinton and Obama both, they basically signed off many of our public parks and stuff over to the United Nations, and you can see it on placards outside of these places like Yellowstone and that say that they're owned by the United Nations and not by the American people. That these basically foreign bodies own our national parks and much of our wildlife preserves and stuff. I don't like that. I don't think that that's something that should be happening. And I severely mistrust foreign bodies having that kind of influence in this country. As should everyone who lives here. I mean, I would be very mistrustful of what the UN is up to. That goes for countries, every sovereign nation having their, you know, their public property and stuff signed over to a nebulous government who has no loyalty to the people. I mean, that's certainly gonna end well. Oh yes, trust us. We're people from another nation that have no real loyalty to you and yours. I certainly want people like that in charge of my parks and owning them. Bum, 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 bum. Ugh. Mein Leben. Mein Leben. Has anybody been playing Monster World? I don't have it, so I'm just kind of wondering what if it's any good. Oops. Yeah, 45 hours. You have a simple mission: upgrade your freighter's warp drives and travel the center of the galaxy. That's the end of the game, by the way. You're off the weird fruit kick. Somehow got interested in Washington State geology. What fruit kick? What fruit kick were you on?
Listens off the streets. Rainfall washes away the memories in binary. Salvation bathes us in its glow. We look up to the sky and dream of a utopia. Things
What the hell is that? What's that shit about? Oh, I see. You're just glitching now. Alright, whatever. We talked about watching exotic fruit vids. Oh.
Let's run away, we'll walk by the riverside. I never meant to lie, but the stakes were high. Counting stars all night, counting stars till it's bright. I don't care where we are if you're by my side. I can still feel your pain. I can still hear you say, you and I will pass the test of time. Leaves and wolves. What is in the sky inside? Forever wondering why. Set in stone. A mission on my road. Frozen in the morning, found us holding hands. East to the sea, our love won't just drown. Under the red moon, we did seal the pact. We'll be gone so soon, there is no way back. I can still feel your pain. I can still hear you say, you and I will pass the test of time. Leaves and wolves. What is in the sky inside? Forever wondering why. Set in stone. A mission on my road.
Alright, Jerome, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. I think I'm going to end it here, guys. I think we made some good progress. I still need to work on the kick a bit more and see how I like it. But, oh, it wasn't showing up for some reason. I wonder why. Showing the wrong window. Okay. Oh, that was fun. Wish somebody had told me. I wish it captured the whole program, but it doesn't. Makes capturing the whole thing a pain in the ass. But anyway, we got some progress done, and I'll likely put some more work into it before I'm satisfied with it. But for now, guys, I will see you over on Twitch in a bit. I need to get something to eat. Thanks for hanging out.